What is going on, people? I am here for a top 10. And it's not going to be just any top 10. It's actually going to be a top 10 of the 10, or let me just say, my top 10 of my favorite movies in the past decade. Now, my list in no way is, the end all be all kind of list or anything like that. But these are the top 10 movies plus some honorable mentions, which I'll get into. But these are the top 10 movies that I can say I enjoyed the most. And let me just say, some of these, they might not be the greatest of movies of all time, but the way I look at movies is if I can sit down and watch a movie more than once, or if I sit down and the movie is on TV and I'll watch it at any given point, even if it's halfway through the movie, if it's 10 minutes left of the movie, or anything like that. If I see any of these movies, some of them have not been on TV yet, but I'm just saying, some of, when I think of the movies that I call my top 10, I guess you would call it, it's movies, like I said, that I can sit down at any given point, watch the movie 100% through, and have no, problems with it. There's certain movies that are really good movies, but you catch me on the wrong time, wrong date, I just can't sit through it. Other ones, it's, a masterpiece and all that stuff, but I only can watch it once. Like, if I try to watch it again, it's, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but these are, like I said, I got a bunch of honorable mentions. I think I got almost 10, by themselves. But the top 10, and to tell you the truth, it was very hard to kind of like pick and choose which one, I like the most and all this stuff. But rewatchability is big for me. Just overall, did I like it a lot? There's a lot of movies that I kept off, and I'll tell you, the only reason I did keep them off is because I actually want to do like a top 10 per genre, I guess, kind of deal. Depends on how, how well this goes over. If you guys like this video, this idea, I guess you want to call it, let me know, and I'll definitely go ahead and kind of break it down into, like I said, genres or categories and stuff, like Disney movies. There's a lot of Disney movies that came out that I was like, I could have put on this list, but if I did put on the list, it would probably be like 50 movies long. So I picked, I had to pick and choose from each kind of genre and stuff, for the ones that I really did enjoy, really did, find my favorite, I guess you want to call it. So, like I said, this will be my top 10 plus of the past decade. I really started doing YouTube videos in 2009, so a lot of it, I've seen people around for a little bit longer and, do, decades before. This is my first ever top 10 of the decade. So hopefully you enjoy it. Before I do get into it, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, definitely go ahead and hit that like button. And of course, if you want to know when I do upload more stuff, whether it be top 10s or unboxings or reviews or anything like that, definitely hit that little bell button so you know when I do upload more stuff. So like I said, I got a whole bunch of honorable mentions. So I guess I'll go through that now. Let me just lower my phone so nothing goes, because it's making some weird noises. So anyway, like I said, I got a whole bunch of them. The honorable mentions really didn't put them in any specific order or anything like that. I just picked the movies out that I'm like, I really did enjoy. And so let me just get into it with the honorable mentions. My whole top 10, every genre you can think of. So this one here I thought was very cool, very interesting, and something I never heard of before. Very different style filmmaking, I guess you want to call it. And I guess at that point too, if you're the actors in this movie, you must have really been very patient and stuff. But anyway, the movie is called Boyhood. For those of you who have checked out my videos and stuff, probably in top 3 genres of movies, horror movies are like my top go-to. Like, I love horror movies. Then probably like crime thrillers, I guess you want to call it. And third on the list, not far from, the top 3, is coming-of-age movies. And Boyhood, I must say, is a very intense, I guess you would call it, coming of age, because this movie was taped over 12 years. And it's the same characters, in certain movies when they grow up, you get a different character to play, or a different actor to play the same character. Well, it's the same actors playing the same characters over a 12-year span. They taped during the summer for 12 years straight, and it just tells the story of a young kid growing up, the bad stuff that goes on in his life and how he kind of overcomes it and such. Like I said, coming of age movies I definitely adore, and Boyhood is definitely one that I've never heard of before. Like that style of taping and stuff like that over 12 years, met every summer for 12 years, and it was just really cool. So anyway, Boyhood, if you haven't seen that. This one, I have all the dates that they did come out. This one came out in 2014. I'll pick this one here. This one kind of brought my love back for this series, I guess you want to call it. And then the second one came out, and it didn't do it as much. I was hyped for the second one of this, and it kind of blew up in my face. That's why I try not to get too excited for stuff. I kind of let my emotions and stuff kind of go to the wayside, and then if I watch a movie, I just let it surprise me kind of deal. For those of you who have heard, and I've said it in a few videos, one of my favorite movies of all time is Jurassic Park. Then, you had Jurassic Park 2, which wasn't bad, to tell you the truth. Then you had that abomination, which was Jurassic Park 3. And, I don't know, that kind of just put a bitter taste in my mouth. I'm like, come on now. Not many sequels do I enjoy or stuff. There's certain ones I'm like, you don't even have to touch it. But then they came out with this movie, Jurassic World, and to tell you the truth, I dug this movie a whole lot. Kind of brought my love for Jurassic Park back into the limelight kind of deal. Then, like I said, they came out with the Lost Kingdom or whatever it was. I was so excited for that movie, and it kind of let me down. Totally different than I thought it was going to be. But anyway, Jurassic World kind of jumped all the other ones, so it's Jurassic Park is definitely my favorite out of the series, one of my favorite movies of all time. And then you get Jurassic World that came, I don't want to say a close second, because there is a major, gap between Jurassic Park and Jurassic World, but like I said, it jumped every other movie and became my second favorite in the series. Chris Pratt does a really good job. Just the different dinosaurs that they bring into it. Jurassic Park finally open kind of deal. I definitely enjoyed this one. So this one actually came out in, now let me see, where'd I write it? 2015. The other thing with this top 10, you're going to notice I have a lot of A24 movies in here. I'll kind of break the silence with that, because I got a few coming now. This one, like I said, is put out by A24. It was put out in 2017. There's a lot of movies from 2017 that are on this list as well. And the movie's called The Last Movie Star, starring Burt Reynolds, Ariel Winter, and Chevy Chase. Pretty much, this story revolves around Burt Reynolds' character, who he plays like in a washed-out kind of actor and such, and he's given get something in the mail that says he's going to win an award, and they're showing a lot of his movies and stuff, and he in his mind thinks, oh, okay, it's this gigantic award, I'm definitely going to go, I'm going to get a second career and stuff, and he ends up going to this no-name award ceremony. It's put on by, a bunch of kids that enjoy his work, and the award that he thought he was going to win wasn't what he thought it was. And just throughout the movie, you find him, kind of finding himself, because, I guess certain actors, they get their head too, oversaturated, thinking they're better than they are. And then this guy finally, throughout the movie, kind of learns about his wrongdoings in life and tries to fix it, because like I said, he's been washed up and no one's really wanted to hire him. Just a really good overall movie. This one came out in 2017. Check that one out for sure. This is another A24 movie. This is more of a thriller than anything. A slow burn too, and to tell you the truth, I don't mind slow burns as long as there's a payoff at the end. There's some movies that are just so slow, and you're like, okay, something's going to happen, and the movie finishes, and you're like, I waited all that for nothing. Well, this one definitely had like a slow plot, slow moving, but then you see everything unwinding and stuff like that, and the end of it really, caught me. And the movie is called The Killing of a Sacred Deer. This one is definitely a psychological type thriller kind of deal where there's a slow revenge plot going through this whole movie. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to go way too deep into it because I want you guys to check this one out for sure. But really good cast. You have Colin Farrell and Nicole Kidman. And let's just say, like I said, there's a slow-moving revenge plot that comes through the entire movie. I'll leave it at that. But definitely, if you haven't seen this one, Killing of a Sacred Deer, definitely go ahead, find it, check it out, and go for that for sure. Okay, let me put that on the side. This one was in my top 10. Like I said, the top 10... I was moving bits and pieces around. It was hard. I don't like doing it. Usually I'll just say these are my top 10 in no specific order. But I'm like, let me try. Let me kind of go through my brain and see which ones I like the most. This one came out in 2018. I didn't read the book, but let me just say, as a nostalgia kick in the face kind of deal, like I watched the movie and just so much stuff came, back. It's a modern... well, not a modern take, but just modern, thoughts and ideas, but a throwback to the old school. And that is Ready Player One, where, the world is now this, like, wasteland kind of deal, and people are playing this video game where it brings them to a different world, but you have a lot of, like, the 90s references and stuff like that. Really good stuff. Again, this one would have made my top 10, but then as I was going through and kind of messing around with the different movies, just got kicked out. So Ready Player One, if you haven't seen this one, like I said, I haven't read the book, and people were so... I look at it too, is there's certain movies where you read the book and then you watch the movie and people are disappointed. This one, from what I remember and what I saw, a lot of people that read the book really liked the movie. So when that happens, I don't want to say it bumps up my like of the movie, but it kind of puts it into perspective a little bit more for me. But Ready Player One, if you haven't seen that one, definitely check it out. Like I said, that came out in 2018. This one right here, like I said, I went through all my different genres and stuff, and Disney, one of my favorite genres of all time. Well, I guess you wouldn't call it a genre, but kids movies and stuff like that, Disney movies have a really good place in my heart kind of deal. Very fun and entertaining. This movie, I think, kind of, I don't want to say fell to the wayside, but definitely doesn't get as much acclaim as I think it should. Very underrated movie. Came out of nowhere. Really did enjoy it. It stars John C. Reilly and what's her name? I can't even think of her name right now. What the hell is it? My mind blanked. I was about to say Sharon Stone, but definitely not it. I can't think of it. But anyway, the movie is Wreck-It Ralph. Definitely underrated, I must say. Really fun movie about, an evil video game character portrayed, like, in the game. If you play, I guess, Wreck-It Ralph, the game, he's an evil guy trying to break down, like, buildings and stuff, and you have a Fix-It Felix guy that's supposed to, fix it and such. Well, this is like the inside of the game. Like, it's all the characters coming together. And all Wreck-It Ralph wants is some recognition and wants to be part of the group and stuff. But since he's a bad guy, they shun him and stuff. And he tries to fix that by going into different video games and winning medals to make it look like he's good and such. Really underrated film. Really, one that kind of hit me by surprise. I really did dig it. Again, a lot of people, they made, Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet or whatever. Good movie, but definitely not as good as the first one. So this one, if you haven't seen it, definitely go ahead and check it out. Another A24 movie. That one was from, Wreck-It Ralph was from 2012. This came out 2017. Like I said, a lot of 2017 movies in this, list. And of course, like I said, a lot of A24 movies. If you've ever seen The Room by Tommy Wiseau, you know what I'm talking about. A very cult classic movie just for how bad it is. It's up there with like Troll 2 levels. Well, they decided to Dave Franco, James Franco, Seth Rogen's in this. They decided to make, a behind-the-scenes story of The Room. And the movie's called The Disaster Artist. Pretty much takes you into the mind, well, not really into the mind of Tommy Wiseau, because I don't think anybody can technically get into the mind of him, because, it was, no one knows anything about him. They don't know how old he is, where he got the money to make the movie and stuff. But if you ever seen The Room, this is pretty much them, like a insight of how they made the movie and what was going on and stuff like that. Really good stuff. If you've never seen it, The Disaster Artist. I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit just because, I'm not even into the actual top 10 and I'm already 15 minutes in. But then one of the last, this one came out in 2017 as well. Stars Shirley MacLaine and Amanda Seyfried. Kind of out of nowhere. I didn't know about this movie. I ended up buying it and really digging it. And the movie's called The Last Word. This is Amanda Seyfried plays this journalist and all this stuff. And Shirley MacLaine is I don't want to say pseudo-celebrity, but she's, well-known. People know about her and stuff. And at one point in time, Shirley MacLaine wants this publicist or the company to write her obituary, and they put Amanda Seyfried on the case. And so she's trying to, make it as good as she can, trying to go up to different people. Shirley MacLaine spins it like all these people love her. Don't worry, you can get all these wonderful things, wonderful stories and stuff like that. Turns out that a lot of people don't like her attitude, don't like the way she is. So Shirley MacLaine kind of has to grow and figure out what it is. Tell you the truth, by the beginning of the movie, I hated her. By the end of the movie, at that point in time, you learn why she is the way she is and what she does. Really good movie. If you haven't seen this, definitely go ahead, check out The Last Word. So those, like I said, were a lot of the honorable mentions. There's a ton of other movies that I could have put on here, but like I said, I didn't want a list of 50 movies. I tried to keep it as small and stuff as possible. If you want more, like where I break down the genres to the top 10s of the decade, let me know in the comments. Also, I'll mention this throughout the video. If you want, go ahead in the comments, let me know your top 10 or make a video about your top 10 of the decade kind of deal. We'll have fun with it. So anyway, into my top 10. This one came out in 2014. Kind of caught me off guard. Knew nothing about it. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal. Did not know this was such a thing, but I guess someone's got to do it kind of deal. The movie is called Nightcrawler. Pretty much what this is about is people that are the first ones on any scene kind of deal. Like if there's an accident or, I don't know, like shootings or something like that, there's people that go out and tape it. They go out, nightly and stuff like that and looking for stuff to happen. And what they do is they sell their tapes and stuff, their recordings, to all these newscasts for money. So the better shots you get, the better stories you get, whatever, the more money you get. So at one point in time, Jake Gyllenhaal's character just, goes crazy with it. To make extra money, he does certain things to, get a better shot and then get stories and stuff like that. By the end of it, it looks like he just goes mad. Really good movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely go ahead, check it out. Nightcrawler, like I said, this one came out in 2014. This one just, I guess you would call it, made the list. Came out in 2011. The first part of this came out in 2010, I believe. But never read the books, but as I watched the movies, they got better and better and better. I actually like, to tell you the truth, out of all of them, I like the first one the most. And that's a lot of them, too. Like, they might not be, the most action-packed or whatever, but I always like the first, not edition, but the first movie in a series kind of deal. This one, they got pretty good. Certain ones kind of fell a little bit shorter than the other ones. But the one that made the list is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Not Part 1, but Part 2. It, finally finished the series off on the right note. Like I said, I like the first Harry Potter the most for some reason. Just, I like the introductory and learning about the characters and stuff like that. I mean, throughout the series, you learn more and more about the characters. But that first movie, I always loved, like The Lord of the Rings. First movie I loved the most, The Hobbit. stuff like that. The first in the series might not be the most exciting, but I enjoy them the most. So, but as the movies got, further and further along in the Harry Potter series, you all know they get darker and darker and darker. Every character grows, they're older and stuff like that. So it becomes very dark. The sad thing is it ended the series, with Deathly Hallows Part 2, but all good things must come to an end. But if you've never seen it, if you've never seen the series, definitely go ahead and check out Harry Potter. But number 9 out of all this, like I said, it came out in 2011. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 is my number 9. All right, so my number 8 stars a whole really good class. Good cast, Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal, so many different people in this. Paul, what's his name? Paul Dano, a whole bunch of people. Definitely came out of nowhere. Came out in 2013. Very, like I said, I like thrillers and all that stuff, and this one kind of has that thriller, like action, like a little bit of everything in there. You're gonna notice I don't have many action movie, like full out just action movies kind of deal. This one is called Prisoners. What happens is Hugh Jackman's daughter gets kidnapped, and throughout the movie, because a lot of the police only have certain things they can do, sometimes cases just go cold and stuff like that. Hugh Jackman takes his whatever you want to call it, like own stance on it, I guess you want to call it. Like, police aren't really doing anything, so he's going to go by any means to find his daughter and by any means necessary get her back. Really good stuff. Like I said, thriller. There's twists and turns in this one. If you haven't seen it, definitely go ahead. 2013 it came out. Prisoners. This one came out in 2017, based on a true story. I kind of remember the story. It didn't make like nationwide news or anything like that, but I remember it because it kind of, they mentioned it one time, and I was just like, that sucks, kind of deal. And it kind of, this isn't like politically driven. There's too many movies nowadays that put way too much politics in it. Like, a lot of the movies nowadays, I can't sit down and watch a lot because it's too in your face kind of deal. I watch movies, I listen to music to get away from that everyday thing, and too many people are in it. But this one here, it has that class, I guess you want to call it, discrimination, I guess, if you want to say that. This, like I said, is based on a true story. I forget when the actual thing happened. I remember it happened in the 90s at one point in time, but I don't remember specific. But anyway, the movie is called Bomb City, and this is a true story about a town that had a big war going on, I guess you want to call it. You had the punks and you had the like jocks and stuff, where the two groups would literally all the time fight and mess up the town, and everybody was getting sick of it, until one night this fight that should have, just ended for a long time. Let's just say it took a very bad twist, a very bad turn, and let's just say someone died from it. And throughout, most of the whole movie is actually, the events that took up. Throughout that, you have, cut scenes, I guess, at a certain point, because people were taken to court and all that stuff. And by the end of it, I don't want to give it away, but let's just say it turns out differently than I would have, what should have taken place. But anyway, that's nor here or there. Definitely check out Bomb City. It's put out by Gravitas Ventures. Bomb City, check it out for sure. This one came out in 2017. This is another movie from A24. This was put out in 2016. It stars Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe. Talked about it many times before. Swiss Army Man. Definitely a different take on a movie. Paul Dano's character, you see, gets stranded on an island, and you think it's almost going to turn into like a Castaway kind of deal. Well, Daniel Radcliffe's character floats up on shore. You'll find out that there's a dead body just floating on shore. And Paul Dano kind of, I guess, in his craze or whatever, thinks him to life, I guess you want to call it. It looks like a, imagination kind of deal gone wild, where Daniel Radcliffe somewhat, I guess, comes back to life kind of deal. He can't move on his own or anything like that, but he has conversations and stuff. And throughout as the movie progresses, his conversations get more and more, effective, I guess you want to call it. In the beginning, it's very simple speaking and stuff, and by the end of the movie, he's having full out conversations and stuff. So it's just overall really fun. I'm sure there's like a deeper meaning, but the way I looked at it, it was a fun overall movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Swiss Army Man, 2016. This one came out in 2018. This is the one, like I said, if I could sit down and tell you about like 10 Disney movies that came out in the past decade that I loved, that would be short. There's so many that came out that I really did enjoy. This one kind of shot over everything just because one of my favorite things in life was always Winnie the Pooh, but I've mentioned it before. Tigger has always been one of my favorite characters of all. I'll leave him there. I got a Tigger character. If I turn my camera, he's sitting right over there. But anyway, like I said, Winnie the Pooh has always been, especially from my childhood kind of deal, in my life at some point in time. Like Tigger has always been one of my favorite characters in anything ever. So then in 2018 they came out with Christopher Robin, and let me just say I was kind of iffy, but this movie, pretty much Winnie the Pooh and his cast of characters, Piglet, Kangaroo, and Eeyore and all that stuff, leave the 100-acre wood to find an older, kind of lost, I guess you want to call, Christopher Robin, and they kind of tried to bring back his memories and bring him back to when he was a child and get him to be happy again, because the stresses of life have changed his whole perception on life and stuff like that. Really good movie. Like I said, I think I'm a little bit biased because I'm such a huge Winnie the Pooh fan kind of deal, but really good movie if you haven't seen it. Christopher Robin tears at the heartstrings and stuff like that. Christopher Robin came out in 2018. Next, for my number 4 movie, I actually don't have the movie. I don't know where it is. I was looking for it throughout throughout my collection. I have to kind of really dig. I move my collection all over the place. But anyway, the movie came out in 2011. More of an action type, not action, like sports type movie, I guess you want to call it. Stars Tom Hardy, stars Nick Nolte, stars Joel Edgerton and stuff like that. Movie's called Warrior, about two brothers who are estranged from each other. They lose contact and stuff like that until they have this big tournament of MMA fighting, almost like UFC style MMA fighting and stuff like that. And it's a big tournament to win a whole bunch of money. And at one point, the father, Nick Nolte's character, is training Tom Hardy's character, one of the brothers, for this big fight. They're getting ready to train, and all of a sudden the other brother, Joel Edgerton's character, ends up in the mix, and let's just say their lives get pushed right back together because of this tournament and what's going on and such. Really good movie. There's certain scenes in that I was just like, wow, like definitely hit me stronger than others. But definitely Warrior, if you haven't seen Warrior, came out in 2011. Definitely a really good movie. I don't know why I'm punching myself right now. But anyway, Warrior, if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. This movie came out last year. Was my top movie of last year. That was the first ever top 10 movies for the year list that I've done. But this one still is up there. Really good. Definitely different. Has like a I don't want to say like Lord of the Flies meets. There's a whole bunch of stuff, like feelings that I get from this movie. The movie is called Assassination Nation. It stars a whole bunch of people, but the one main name that you might know is now I'm trying to think of what the hell her name is. Horrible with this. There's so many movies here that that I'm trying to... Bella Thorne, that's what I'm looking for. But anyway, the movie's called Assassination Nation. Pretty much what happens is, like, in this day of age of social media and the trials and tribulations of social media, because social media could be used for the greatest of things, but then it could be used for either the greatest of evils or just some bad stuff. So pretty much what happens is this one girl's social media starts going crazy with incriminating evidence about a bunch of people in the town, high-ranking officials, from the top to the bottom. It just starts sharing certain things that shouldn't have been leaked, people shouldn't have known about, and they become like prime enemy number one, this girl and her friends, and then it's like a town hunt for these girls, and it just goes all over the place like craziness. Like another thing is like Hunger Games, where people are just running around crazy, like going after people. It's just all over the place. Really good stuff. Like I said, didn't know too much about it going into it, but definitely caught my eye. Assassination Nation. Definitely, if you haven't seen this one, it's hard to explain. Like I said, it's its own type of movie, but just the craziness and the chaos that goes through this movie, I definitely dug it. So that came out last year. That's number 3. Number 2 just made the list, 2010. This movie here brought back my love of horror. I didn't watch it when it came out in 2010. I didn't watch it till like the mid 2010, so like 2015, like 5 years ago or something like that. But this movie brought back my love of horror. Not a straight-up horror movie, but just overall, it's a horror comedy. Just the way it was, the fun of this movie. It's rated. You look at the, like, not that I go by Rotten Tomatoes by any means necessary, to tell you the truth. I usually go the opposite. If it's rated like a high tomato meter, whatever you want to call it, I don't watch the movie. If it's low, I'll go ahead and see it. But anyway, this one, for a horror movie, it definitely is rated up there for both audience level and Rotten Tomato score. And the movie is called Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I will tell every video that I've said this was a movie that kind of brought me back into the horror viewing, horror movie watching, learning about new stuff, because this wasn't, released, not to my knowledge, wasn't released in the theaters and stuff. It was more of a like straight to Blu-ray or straight to DVD kind of deal. It stars Tyler LeBanc, hopefully I said that right, and Alan Tudyk. Pretty much it's these two hillbillies that are just trying to, kind of better themselves. Like they buy a almost like a man cave kind of deal, where they go and they buy a cabin in the woods, and they're going to fix it up, and it's going to be a man cave and stuff like that. Well, in the beginning of the movie, these two rednecks, I guess you want to call it, as, someone flies down the street on a motorbike. These two rednecks pretty much run into a group of college kids, and in horror movies, of course, the rednecks are the hillbillies, whatever you want to call it. They're the evil ones. They're the ones that are out to kill people. So in the beginning, you don't know what's going on. I mean, eventually you learn that these college kids got the wrong idea, but they're the ones going after these hillbillies because one of their friends fell, and they saw, these two guys went to fix her up and take care of her. Well, the college kids think it's the opposite way around. They were taking her just to kill her kind of deal. So now they're after. Really fun movie, accidental deaths and stuff like that. All over top fun. Like I said, might not be award winning or anything like that, but to tell you the truth, I can sit down and watch this movie over and over and over and over and over again, which I have. I bought this movie 2 times over. I got the steelbook of it, and so this is definitely one movie that I can, like I said, if it was ever on TV, I could sit down and watch it. No matter what point in time it is in the movie, I'll sit down and watch it. Really fun stuff if you haven't seen it. Tucker and Dale versus Evil, my number 2 for the decade. And my number 1 for the decade, to tell you the truth, came out this year. I did not know I was going to like it as much as I like it, and I've already seen it like, I don't know, 6, 7 times, I guess you want to call it. I was like, wow. Just like the plot behind it. I was just like, I thought about it when I was younger, but I never thought it would actually happen kind of deal. Like, what would the ramifications come? And just the way it seems like at the end of this movie, it might have, more coming. It stars Elizabeth Banks. It stars, where am I at? David Dedman, Jackson A. Dunn, Matt Jones, whole bunch of people. And the movie is called Brightburn. This is a horror type movie where, imagine if, it doesn't say it outright, but imagine if Superman, when he was younger, instead of, growing up and becoming a superhero and doing super good things, what if his mind warped and he started doing evil? Someone with all these superpowers and stuff like this to do, like I said, he becomes a superhero and does all good stuff. What if, let's just say, there's something in his mind that turns him evil, and the craziness and the chaos that can happen from that? And to tell you the truth, when I watched the movie and just certain death scenes in this movie and just the whole crazy, like the gore aspect and stuff of this movie, I was just like, wow. I mean, people were talking about it, and I was like, how good can it be? I watched it. I fell in love with it. Definitely, like I said, probably my number one of the past decade. Like I said, there's the way that it ended. It looks like they're going for something more. Hopefully they do. But overall, I was just like, wow, this movie caught me like out of nowhere. I love this movie. I can sit down, like I said, I can pop it in right now and watch it again, probably 2 or 3 times. Just watch the movie over and over and over. Find stuff that I haven't seen before. But overall, if you haven't seen Brightburn, check it out. Really good stuff. Like I said, who would have thought an evil Superman? Superman, I guess you want to call it. But definitely check out Brightburn if you haven't. So there you go. Those are my top 10 plus some honorable mentions. Again, this list is probably, completely different than most people's, completely different than yours. Like I said, my mind works differently. The movies I like and the movies, I can sit down and watch are a lot different than most. So by all means, is this the end-all, be-all list? Is this something that, everybody should look for or anything like that? No. These are my top 10 plus 7 or whatever it is of movies in the decade that I enjoyed and watched. Some of these, maybe some people have never heard of. Some of them, people might agree. Some people might disagree. But those are my top 10 of the decade. Like I said, if you want more, if you want me to break it down into genre and stuff, like top 10 Disney movies, top 10 horror movies, top 10 thrillers, top 10 action movies, stuff like that of the decade, let me know and I'll definitely go ahead and do that for you, just so you can see more movies and more like my taste and stuff. If you don't, whatever, that's fair. Definitely in the comments, if you disagree with some of the movies I have here, if you agree with it, let me know. I want to know more about people and my viewers and stuff like that. And of course, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this, definitely hit that like button. And of course, if you haven't, hit that little bell button so you know when I do upload more videos like this, more reviews, whatever have you, hit that little bell button so you're aware when more stuff comes out. So again, top 10 of the decade, top 17 of the decade, or whatever it is. And yeah, hopefully, like I said, hopefully you liked it. And definitely if you want to see more, because I have an inkling, but I don't want to do it if no one really cares. But if you really want to see more, if you want to see the different genres and stuff, let me know. Also, in the description box, I'll leave all my other social media stuff, whether it's my YouTube, my YouTube, you're watching it on here, my Facebook fan page, my Twitter, my Instagram, where I show off the movies behind me. I'm a part of the Dorkening, our podcast. We talk to a whole bunch of horror movie people on Tuesdays for a Wicked Horror Show. There's comic book talk. There's a whole bunch of stuff on the Dorkening Network. If you want to see us live, we do it Tuesday nights. If you want to listen to a podcast, check out the Dorkening Podcast Network, pretty much where everything is, all podcasts and stuff. So check that out. And yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed it. And I guess until next time, I'll see you guys.